So for the last few weeks, I've been keeping this journal, this documentation of my daily interactions with AI. And I start to see something, a little off. A glitch, really. But it wasn't in the AI. It was in my own thinking, hiding right there in plain sight. That's what we're going to dig into today. It really made me think of this quote from Thoreau. It was written, over 150 years ago, but it just perfectly nails the trap I was falling into. I was so busy, getting so much done with AI, but the whole time I was confusing all that activity with actual progress. It really forced me to ask, okay, what am I actually busy about? And I honestly believed it. I felt faster, smarter, just more efficient. But when I really looked at my work, I wasn't getting more done. I was just producing more drafts, more ideas, more answers. But I wasn't actually solving the real problems. I was just, making myself busier. And here's the thing. Here's why this is such a sneaky trap to fall into. Getting that instant answer from AI, it feels so good. It's this little hit of dopamine, right? It feels like you're making progress, like you're moving at lightning speed. And that feeling is powerful. But man, I'm learning it can be a total illusion. It's because we're all caught up on this busy bandwagon. Everything in our culture tells us if you aren't producing something right this second, you're falling behind. So that moment you take to just pause, to actually think and clarify the problem you're solving, it feels like you're pulled over on the side of the road while traffic is just screaming past you. Okay, so I started to break down my own process, and I found this pattern, a recurring 3-step loop that I was stuck in day after day without even noticing. It's this little cycle that starts with the best of intentions, to go fast, but it always ends with me just automating my own confusion. So here's what it looks like. First, there's the skip. I've got this vague idea in my head, but instead of taking a minute to really clarify it, I just jump right to the AI. This, of course, leads to the wrong question. Because I don't know what my real problem is, I end up asking for help with my half-baked solution. And that leads to step 3, false progress. The AI gives me these amazing, articulate answers to completely the wrong question. And this quote it nails that third step. That false progress, it's not just wasted time. It's way worse than that. You get this flood of confident-sounding answers from the AI, and it creates this powerful illusion that you know what you're doing. You feel like you're making a discovery, but in reality, you haven't learned a thing. For a while there, I thought this was just my own weird quirk, something unique to how I was using AI. But I got curious. Is this a new problem, or is it just a new tool triggering a very old one? So I started digging around a bit, and it turns out this little shortcut cycle of mine, it's not new at all. It actually has a name. It's called the XY problem. It comes from the world of software engineering, but it describes my situation perfectly. It's when you're trying to solve problem X, but you get stuck on your attempted solution, which we'll call Y. So you go and ask for help with Y instead of ever explaining the original problem X. I realized I was doing this with AI all the time. And then you read this from Einstein, and it just clicks. He's saying the real genius, the really hard part, isn't finding the solution. It's framing the right question. Getting the answer can just be a technical skill, but figuring out what to ask, that takes real imagination. And that's the part I was skipping every single time. And it makes sense, right? Think about it. Our whole lives, especially in school, we're trained to solve well-defined problems. Here's the math equation. Find X. But the real world is almost never that neat. Most of our problems are ill-defined. The hardest part is figuring out what the problem even is. I was treating these messy real-world problems like they were a pop quiz, and it doesn't work. So with these ideas, the XY problem formulation rattling around in my head, I did something a little uncomfortable. I went back and I started reading through my entire prompt history. And I realized the AI wasn't just a tool. It was a mirror, a great mirror, just reflecting my own thought process, or my lack of one, right back at me. And the patterns, they were just so obvious once I looked. My prompts basically fell into 2 buckets. On one side, you have type A prompts, the shortcut thinking, give me a list of, write me an email, create a plan for. These are my XY problem prompts. And then there were type B prompts, which were about extending my own thinking. Help me clarify this idea. What am I missing here? Critique this concept. And there were way too few of those. And this is where that clarity tax I talked about a few weeks ago really hits you. It's the hidden cost of skipping the hard thinking up front. I actually found one type A prompt that took me maybe 40 seconds to write. The output was totally useless, and I spent the next 42 minutes trying to edit it, trying to fix it, wrestling with it, when I should have just spent 10 minutes clarifying my own thoughts in the first place. This realization just hit me like a ton of bricks. The problem wasn't the AI. It wasn't about prompt engineering hacks or finding a better model. The problem was me. It was the cognitive impatience, all those unexamined assumptions I was bringing to the tool that were causing the issue. And really, this is the fundamental question the AI mirror was asking me. With every give me prompt, was I actually building my own skills, or was I just delegating the thinking, just outsourcing the hard cognitive work? Because if I keep doing that, what does that mean for my own abilities a year from now, or 5 years from now? So all of this has brought me to this kind of crossroads, and it's not about finding some new productivity system or a 5-step plan. It's much deeper than that. It's about recognizing that every single time I open up a chat with an AI, I am making a choice, a really fundamental choice about how I engage my own brain. And it really boils down to 2 paths. Path 1 is the easy one. It's treating the AI like an answer vending machine. You put in a lazy coin, a lazy question, and you get a cheap snack back. Path 2 is harder. It's treating the AI as a genuine thinking partner, something you use to help you think deeper and clearer and better. And the only way to choose path 2, I think, is to practice this thing I'm calling the metacognitive pause. It's that tiny moment of deliberate friction. Right before you start typing, you just stop, and you force yourself to explain the problem out loud to yourself. Because if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough to ask anyone or anything for help. So this is the question I'm trying to ask myself now, at the end of every day. It's simple, but it cuts through all that noise about being busy. It forces me to be honest. Did I actually make a difference today? Did I move the needle on something that matters? Or did I just move the mouse around, stuck in that same old loop of false progress? Look, this is a work in progress. I'm far from having this figured out. It's a daily practice of catching myself before I take that easy shortcut. In fact, just today, I caught myself doing it again. I spent forever refining the same prompt like 12 times, trying to get a better output, when the real problem was the question I asked in the very beginning. But that's a story for next time.